Hey, you're listening to Don't Lie to Your Life Coach podcast with Kim Arrington. I'm Kim Arrington. I'm a life coach, a weight loss coach, an author, and a badass passionate about helping you connect back to your most authentic self. Join me here each week so I can coach you on how to think all those juicy thoughts that get you feeling your absolute best and taking some big ass action. Coaching has changed my life, and it can change your life too. I'm here to give you real life solutions to create a life you'll love. Because the truth is, boo, you ain't just got problems, you got options. Hey, y'all. I'm looking at my lighting. This is what mid-afternoon light looks like. Okay, look at my glasses, though. So y'all, I've graduated to 2 pairs of glasses. I have the distance glasses and I have the computer glasses, right? And because if you listen to episode 50, you all remember that you'll hear that I remembered that I'm frugal. I just literally changed the frames of the glasses and with new lenses. So these glasses are probably 8 years old. They might be 9 years old, but they're really, you can't tell because the lighting is terrible right now, but they are actually burgundy. I'm going to see if I can change my ring light to get in. Oh, you can see the ring light in them, but you can't. Anyway, they're burgundy. They're burgundy. Hey, y'all. Hey. So today we are going to talk about sitting on your hands. What does that mean, Kimbo? The heck does sitting on your hand? Did I say hey to y'all? If I didn't, hey. Sitting on your hands. I'm going to do 2. This is going to be the first part of this because I didn't feel like doing a long episode. So the first part of this is going to be 3 to 4 things you can do to sit on your hands. The next part of this is going to be 3 to 4 things you can do to sit on your hands. So sitting on your hands is, and I wrote this down when I was coming up with notes. Sometimes the best doing is to stop yourself from doing. What does that mean? Sometimes the best doing is to stop yourself from doing, okay? So if you are someone who is easily made anxious by people's reactions, now there's a whole host of y'all who are more avoidantly attached. This is your attachment style, who automatically go to the I'm only going to do in the extreme areas that I'm anxious in, and I'm going to pull back when people make me feel anxious. I ain't talking to y'all like this. I'm talking more about people who are in general made anxious by people's behaviors and who go forward. So if you are more of the avoidantly attached, when someone makes you anxious, you pull back, you remove yourself, you I can't even think of the word I'm thinking of. You're yelling it at me. You close down, you close off, you pull back, right? If you're more avoidant or more anxiously attached, when someone is, you feel they're mad at you, you run forward. The problem is that most people engage with someone who has a different level or the opposite level from them. So you are anxiously attached, you're dealing with someone who is more avoidantly attached. So you run forward to make things right, and they pull back even more. And then you get more anxious and you run forward even faster, and they pull back even more. Okay. Or disorganized attachment. And that means that depending on what the person's attachment style is, I can be anxious or avoidant. However, we're going to be talking more about earned secure attachment, which is someone who has worked to become more and more securely attached And if you are securely attached, that means you feel the feelings of anxiety, but you allow people to have their time to process, especially if you know that they are more avoidant. So when things get hard, that they are going to pull back. So instead of you running forward, you let that person come back to you. Or earned secure is sometimes people aren't going to be happy with me. Sometimes I'm going to make mistakes, and I get to feel that discomfort and not blame another person. So I can't go deep into that. Here's the point. Sometimes the best doing is to stop doing. For most women over 40, women in midlife, you could benefit from doing less. So when something goes wrong, attending to yourself and then allowing the person to come back, or letting some distance happen before you try to make it right. A lot of us are closet rescuers. We're rescuers. I want to get into the drama triangle right now, but I'm gonna wait to do a whole episode on the drama triangle of your life, okay? Of how drama triangle, how who we become in survival mode and how that's affecting us. I'm gonna do that, but I don't want to get lost in the sauce. I want to stay a little bit more on the surface today, because that's kind of what a part one is to me, okay? So one of the ways to stop, and you're like, well, why would I want to sit on my hands? What times would I want to sit on my hands? Well, I talked about there's a rupture in the relationship, there's a problem, there's a conflict that's come up, there is something that's made you feel uncomfortable. I do want to build in that when with our partners, when we've done the work on ourselves to be able to, these kind of 3 to 4 things I'm going to give you, and we have done this with the work of a partner, sometimes the amount of time we stay away from each other is actually shortened. Okay. So I don't want you to be so literal where you're like, well, I was listening to Coach Kim and she said to sit on my hands and do less. I mean that when we are in the beginning stages of trying to understand our relationship to other people or difficult relationships, if you are in relationship with an active, someone in active addiction, you're going to definitely need to fall all the way back. Definitely. Okay. So how do I sit on my hands, Coach Kim? What do I do? Why do I keep calling myself Coach Kim in third person? I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I like it. All right. If you're a person who's the one who always does the apologizing, if you're a person who always sets the agenda of what's going to happen, you facilitate, you like your friends, you're the vacation genie who makes everything happen, and people have said to you, oh, let's go more freestyle, but you can't stop. You're gonna have to learn how to be uncomfortable. You're gonna have to learn how to sit in your discomfort. You're gonna have to learn how to feel anxious and know that it's not gonna kill you. This is the truth. This is the truth. Vulnerability, feeling uncomfortable, feeling anxious, our brains cannot differentiate between that and death. And what I mean by that is you're not literally dying, but your brain swings into action to try to get you to come to an outcome that makes you feel safe, which could be running to talk to that person or trying to clear it up. But the point is for folks who are always hyper vigilant, always looking around for what's wrong, always trying to emotional monitor. The holistic psychologist just did a whole social media post about emotional monitoring, where you're always looking, are you okay? And reading the temperature of people. If you're one of those people, you're going to have to learn to let some people come to you. I remember my mom saying this to me when I was young. It's like, sometimes you just like got to let the argument like hang out there, and you don't have to always be the person who comes back and makes it right. Okay. So you're going to have to be uncomfortable. You're going to be anxious, and you're going to need to find a pressure valve release that you can control. That's a mouthful. So a pressure valve release, something you can control, is like something that gets you to release it from your body and to release it from your mind. So When you do that by yourself, that's called self-regulation. That's when the feeling or the physical sensation in your body comes up and you're like, I'm going to do these couple of steps to be able to move that feeling through, to process it through. Now, journaling to me is a huge one with that, because you can literally say anything on that page and you can talk back like to that page about like, no, I'm not a bad person, but this happened and I made a mistake. And yes, this brings up the shame and it reminds me of, my mom when she was this, but this is not my mom. That is definitely one of the ways. But the science now is like the body release. So in my weight loss course, because, people who gain weight and are on a weight loss journey are generally using food to do things food is not intended to do, which is feel better. Food is not designed to make you feel better. Food is designed to fuel your body so you can be alive. It's a basic need. But we've adapted that and our brains have gone along with it for us to feel better. So anyway, in my weight loss program, Half-Life Weight Loss, I'm going to be teaching 5-step, which also even has a step in if you have to continue repeating it until the hard emotions are gone. I've built in a way to identify the emotion, to feel the emotion, to process the emotion, which is releasing it from the mind, but also to release it from the body, and to then affirm the emotion, which is, here is the way I want to look at this now. Even if I can't believe it, this is another way I could look at it. That's what you'll learn if you're in my weight loss program. That's going to come out in the summer of 2023. Okay. Because the truth is, to really feel your feelings, you're going to have to, and to process it through, you're going to have to get at it with multiple ways of releasing it in your mind, potentially, and that body release. And that body release might be dancing it out, shaking it out, going on a walk, meditating, taking a shower. Like there's got to be a body release to self-pleasure, sex. Like there has to be a way that we have dealt with it in our mind and our body, because anxiety doesn't just live in our minds, and any of our emotions don't just live in our minds, they live in our bodies too. And so to process it all the way through, when I say process it all the way through, is like be able to change your emotion. You've got to not just change your thoughts, you've got to also push that physical sensation we call feelings through your body. Okay. Yeah. So, and the reason why you come up with an affirmative thought or a new story is, over time, that changes how your brain responds to the emotional trigger that came up. Or what I mean by that is it changes how your brain responds to when that same thing happens. It's like if you constantly fight with your sister and you go through these 5 O's, or you like really process through the emotion in multiple ways, you journal about it, and then you like have a body release, I'm going to go on a walk and just like woosah away. And then at the end of it, I'm going to tell a different story. Like my sister and I might be different people, but I love her because she's my sister and we don't have to think the same way. Over time, the way the feeling comes up when something happens with your sister, it actually will diminish. The physical sensations, the severity of it will generally diminish unless it's a really big event. And then you'll be back at ground zero, except you will have had a history of how you deal with the situation. And that's what I'm going to be teaching people in that program. Okay. So we are actually wired to do too much. And especially if we went through too much in our homes growing up, we found a way to survive. I'm going to put my podcast in Survival A and B. I'm sure I'm missing some words in that, but I'll put it into the show notes. For some of us, doing too much was to run in to help the person beyond what we could, which ultimately affects our boundaries as we get older. But also, sitting on our hands will allow us to realize we are not the only person who has to rescue the folks. As a matter of fact, we're not the only person who has to help. As a matter of fact, we're not the only person who is designed to help. As a matter of fact, we really could be allowing people to deal with their own things. And when we have someone, we're in a difficult relationship and we don't like what they're doing, if we're always running in to help them and triage them, then they are less likely to change what they are doing, because what they're doing gets them attention, gets them help, gets them whatever. But if they had to deal with what the actual consequences of it, they would potentially be more likely to change. So if we're wired to do too much, you've got to ask yourself, like, why am I doing this much? Why do I have to keep doing this damn much? Why? Why come you have to keep doing? Why do you have to be the person who always helps that person? Why, like, and so what we want to think about is what that actual beginning story is about why we feel like we always have to be the helper. That's really important. What in us, why did we originally start helping? Was it because we felt anxious because a parent felt sad, angry, upset about another parent? And then now we've taken that into our adult relationships. We had to ask ourselves that, okay? You can decide, number 3, that what you're doing or what you've done, let's start with that. What you've done is enough. What I've done in the past is enough, and I don't need to do no more, okay, right now. What I'm doing is enough, and I've done enough, and that is good enough. If you have a friend who's in active addiction, and they are in a community of other people who are in recovery, you loving them and missing them may be very valid. But if I have a friend who is in active addiction and they have relapsed, and I've noticed a pattern of them relapsing, I'm actually not going to say anything about that, because that gets in the way of their relapse journey. This will be different if you are my client, but if you are my friend. And then the other thing I'm not going to do is, once it's been clear to me that I see the pattern of what you typically do, then I am not, like, I have kind of a rule: if I call you twice and you don't call back, I leave you be. So that essentially means if there's a pattern, I notice a pattern, and I have the anxiety of, oh my God, did they or didn't they? Are they or aren't they? I don't need to call to get my anxiety or my feelings of fear validated. I need to sit on my hands. I need to sit on my hands, and that phone call, if this person is in my community, will come when they are in a position where their relapse is over. If you love someone who has a disease of addiction, or if you love someone who at one point was in active addiction, you will understand that there is nothing you can do that's going to move them to the next part of their recovery. Recovery is an inside job, and you can love and miss. But my advice to you is to sit on your damn hands. Got to sit on your hands. You got to feel uncomfortable. You got to talk back to that discomfort. Got to remind yourself that they have a community and that this is part of their process, and you can still love them, but you might need to decide your proximity. And if they are in active addiction, in my opinion, your proximity should be very small. Your proximity should be very large. Like they should be way, 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 way beyond arm's length. This is different if we have a child, a minor who's under 18. You probably should be speaking to an addiction recovery specialist, or in Codependence Anonymous or Al-Anon or something else, okay? I would say the next one is, and this is going to be the final one, is I want you to think about sitting on your hands where you are your own cause. And I think that all the ones I talked about today have that be your own cause aspect of it. Like, many of us, and I just did the happiness ceiling episode, and I'm going to put this in here. Many of us have decided that our lives look a certain way and they cannot change. And most of us have a spicy 5, a spicy 3 to 5. The spicy 3 to 5 is not the newest KFC combo. No. The spicy 3 to 5 is 1 to 5 issues that if we were to work towards solving, they could dramatically change our lives. So I will give you an example. One of my spicy 5 was weight loss, because I wanted that for myself and I solved for that. And I continue to solve for that. That's an active solution situation. The other one was money, my fear around money, my guilt around money. And I have gone deep into that, working through that, have myself kind of on a year program and on a future focused even program after that, and books and all of that. And the relief I've felt from stopping overspending, I cannot express to you the calm. You all know I'm frugal fabulous. I've got myself on a spending band. I'm going to do a whole episode about money that talks about my choice to stop spending on huge categories that were once huge categories in my life, and the calm I have and the way that my husband and I have been able to work together has been incredible. So this is be your own cause, be your own rebel. And then the other, I would say the other spicy 3, the one that I worked on. And I recommend you really starting with big rocks one-on-one. And then as you've kind of gotten some relief and some understanding and clarity around it, you might add on another one. But like, it's okay if you do one at a time. It's okay if you do one a year. It's like, you got to pace yourself. You got to be a pace car, like decide like what's too much. Because remember, if you're working on an issue, you're also like living your life, doing your job or work, having your family, if you have it, even if you don't have a family, having your friends, having your pets, having all those things. So life is still happening as you're working on that. So just be careful about how deep you go into that. But then my third one would really be like emotional maturity, like looking at how I am contributing to my own issues, my own problems, my own, like how, not to point the blame out of what someone else is doing, but like how I'm creating it. I will tell you, I have gotten rid of the term self-sabotage from my vocabulary, because uninformed behavior, like when you don't understand the root of behavior, it can look like self-sabotage. But if you don't really know why you're doing what you're doing, you don't even know you're self-sabotaging. So when you begin to understand about the cycles of how change happens, and you know that relapse like is a part of how you change, then when you go back to the behavior, you understand that if you continue with the change, that you aren't necessarily self-sabotaging, even though you may have some negative consequences from your behavior, but you're actually leaning and learning into that behavior. next episode, promise, I will talk about the drama triangle. Then you have a different relationship. It's kind of like how people use lazy as a catch-all, but for me as a coach, I understand that laziness is a combination of unresolved trauma, the ability, sometimes fight or flight, like I'm frozen, I can't move into a solution. So calling it self-sabotage, it feels like calling it lazy, because change and behavior are such complex and complicated like processes that it's hard for me. Is it processes or processes? Processes are such complex processes that it's hard to say that it's like one thing. That's labeling, right? And my therapist told me that labeling, having to point at everything and say what it is, can actually get in the way of my happiness and my freedom. So I'm passing that on to you, right? That like giving yourself some space, time, validation, self-love around change instead of counting all the mistakes could really be valuable. That is being your own cause. That is like saying in 2023, 24, I'm going to look at this and solve for this. There are lots of inspirational stories. There are lots of stories I have from my clients who like, I'm going to give you one. And I've been so delighted. I have a former client who left his profession. I'm not going to tell you what his profession is because I don't want him to be identified. And he moved, we worked for him to grieve that, to leave that profession. He moved to another town. He talked to me about, oh, my house is not going to, and I was like, yes, it is. Like, I helped support him through that. And then now he's working in his dream job, living in his dream town. Like he had to like create a list about that. And he is traveling the world with his dream job. And he's so ecstatic, so happy. But his cause had to be disengaging from his codependency of this profession to take care of himself. Being your own cause. If you are being your own cause, you are absolutely sitting on your hands. Your hands, you got butt marks on your hands because you're sitting on them so well. You got tushy marks on your hands, okay? You fart and your hands vibrate. That is sitting on your hands. That is it. I was like, in my brain, I'm like, I'm being so serious in these recordings of the episodes. You got to at least tell a fart joke. You want your hands to vibrate. You're sitting on your hands so much. Now, there is a time to step forward and do things, but I am talking about the folks who are always doing for others, who are always trying to work out that adult child's issue, who are always trying to be the person who saves things at work, who are let other people step the hell up. Let them step the fuck up. Let other people do it. You get to have your time to sit in the shade with your peach lemonade and chill too. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So this is part one. You're going to allow yourself to be uncomfortable. You're going to allow yourself to realize we're wired for too much and that you don't have to always be the person who does the helping. You're going to decide when doing enough is enough, and you are going to be your own cause for a while. Solve for some of your spicy 3, spicy 5, your big things. Okay. All right, y'all. So this is part 1. I'm going to follow up with part 2. Y'all know I never do part 2s back to back. Maybe I'll change my rule. I don't know. But usually you'll get a part 1 and then you'll get a part 2 at some point later. Anyway, y'all have a good day. I'm going to a latte date with a friend. So, mwah. So great talking to y'all. Cannot wait. And I want y'all to have a good day. Okay? Bye. Are you feeling what you just heard? Good. Repeat after me. You don't have to figure it out on your own again anymore. I'm here to help. Head over to KimArrington.com and download my free video series dedicated to getting you feeling your best right now. Look around. There's some good stuff waiting on you. Got questions? Well, we're always talking on the socials, so find me on YouTube, Insta, and the book. Don't be shy, y'all. Go listen to another episode or join me here the same time next week. Finally, don't keep good shit to yourself. Share this with a homie that could use some help too. Remember, we're not lying to ourselves anymore. We're not lying to our doctors. And you damn sure don't lie to your life coach.